Welcome in, Big Blue Nation, to another episode of the Cats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Johnston, and for the first time in what feels like it might be months, I don't know, months, weeks, maybe only a couple of days, but time has been going very fast and very slow down in Lexington with all three sports kind of just going on at the same time. It is the busy season down there, but I'm joined by both of my co hosts, Jacob Boyers and Tyler Britton today. Nice to have you fellas back together. You guys have both been taking shots back and forth at each other from pod to pod. Anything you guys want to settle the beef here before we get into Kentucky's win over Auburn?
No, I can only spend so much time actually talking to Tyler. So, every once in a while you need a little buffer.
Yeah, I wanted to come in here and choose violence today. I was thinking about talking about the Bengals and everything, but decided not to on that today, and figured that's already been taken care of by one of our other colleagues, Nick Biltz here. So I'll back off for a little bit.
Yep. All right. Now that you guys have squared away your shots, let's talk about some positive things around the Kentucky football program. Jacob, I can already see the look on your face. You're not wanting to talk positives around this Kentucky football program.
I'm ready. We won. What do you mean?
We got some.
We won an SEC game.
This is like our fifth win in the state of Alabama, like all time.
Yep.
I mean, the Cats went down into Auburn, Alabama at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Was not a pretty game in the slightest. The way we were keeping ourselves in games is not the way we kept ourselves in this game. We go from giving up 59 points against Tennessee to holding Auburn to 3. Guys, tell me what in the world is going on with this team. We go from putting up a lot of points and giving up a lot of points to only putting up 10 and only giving up 3. Like, what's going on?
I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. It makes sense that, we all pick kind of a high-scoring loss to go out there and win 10-3. So I would say that was just the Cats Talk Pod effect.
The jinx.
But I mean, we'll take it. Hey, a win is a win. I'm not going to be one of these people that sit here and complain about a win. As negative as I've been, there's, you're still alive for a bowl game at this point, and it was a game that if you wanted to have any chance of turning the season around, you had to go win. And on a side note, I am perfect on my preseason prediction to this point. And I still had us get into a bowl, so the path is still there, and this was a good first step.
The path is definitely still there. Tyler, I'm going to go ahead and say that was my fault for letting Jacob know that he was perfect throughout this season.
No, I knew I was. I
told him he'd have no idea.
I knew it.
This guy can't remember what he had for lunch yesterday. Jake, what did you have for lunch yesterday?
Yesterday I had a
little
Chipotle action. I got I'm like one more purchase away from a free entree, so I got 1,500 points right now. So don't say I don't have a good memory. I'm there.
Hey, look, I mean, if we can keep this up, and if Boyers' schedule ends up panning out, we can make a bowl game. That'd be awesome. Obviously we have some aspirations with the coaching to see what happens with that. Maybe that plays into it. Maybe it doesn't. But if they can win some games, obviously Kentucky Nation, Big Blue Nation will be, pretty stoked about that. So, I'm with you guys. The offense performance, what was going on. We've been talking about the last few weeks. We've been playing, lights out. It seems like we've been putting points on the board. Cutter Boley's been throwing like crazy. And I'll tell you what, if you had told me last week after the last few performances he's put up, and you told me he was going to be the SEC Freshman of the Week, I would have been like, oh wow, what kind of game would he have had? I was kind of dumbfounded to see the stat sheet there for him. I mean, he had one touchdown, 2 interceptions, and about $160. I wasn't necessarily overwhelmed by it, but got the job done at the end of the day, so I can't complain too much. Obviously, would love to see more production out of him and the receivers. Seth McGowan played, okay. He had 21 carries, 53 yards. Would love to see more production out of him, but again, we got the win, so that's all I can be excited for. We outperformed Auburn's passing game, so we won where it counted.
Yeah, and you kind of just mentioned it there. If you would have said we only scored 10 points and Cutter probably had 5 turnover-worthy plays in this game, I would have said we were getting run off the field, and there was a good chance there was a mid-season coaching change. And now with winning this game, I think that's completely off the table. Just want to get your guys' thoughts on that. I think with the win against Auburn, I don't think there's any chance that – not that they don't move on from Stoops, but they definitely don't do it in season now.
No, I don't think so. And, I think you see how relieved Stoops was for this. I think he knows, obviously, there's still a world where he saves his job going into next year. I think they have to kind of get to a bowl to get to that point. But I've been as negative as anybody. But I mean,
Yeah,
if they get to if they get to a bowl, he, you know, even if it won't have me super super excited for the next season, I think he's earned that right to continue to be the coach here for at least one more year. Um, so I just think everything, all in all, it was a huge step in the right direction. I mean, honestly, if you win 6 games and, if they go win their next 10-3, there's not going to be a whole lot of complaining out of me because you just got to win at this point.
yeah. And we kind of mentioned this earlier in the season, like how tough the beginning part of the schedule was, and these guys just kind of had to stick together and stick around to get to this second half of the schedule. When you did play Auburn, you do play Florida, Tennessee Tech. I mean, these are the games that you looked at early in the season. You're like, oh, these are winnable games. I mean, we're here now, and the team looks
Yep.
like they're locked in. And I don't know if you saw Jake. I mean, so many of the guys after that game giving Coach Stoops hugs. I mean, you saw Barnhart obviously with the big hug. Kelly Craft was there at the game as well. I mean, it really seems like this team is fully bought in. Unlike last year's team, where it just seemed like anything could go wrong, everybody was checking out. I think this team is completely different. I think they're actually getting better week in and week out, and it's something that we've been saying despite the results that have been coming. I don't want to say I'm as high on this team as I've been throughout the entire season, but I mean, you're starting to see at least spots where they're starting to put things together. Now, I don't think they've put it together for an entire game yet. And I think, this Florida game, and especially once you need to go in there and steal a win against Vandy or Louisville, that'll be when you have to put these wins together. But I'm as excited as I've been about this team, even though obviously they're 3-5 at this point. But I mean, we're right about where we expected them to be at this point in the season.
Yeah. And I will say too, like, even at 3-5, this might sound like kind of loser talk compared to what we saw last year, but like there's at least been positives in every single game. Like you walk away and there
Except for
hasn't
South
been
Carolina.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only
But
one. Throw
like
that one out the window.
but even then, like, I mean, the defense didn't, I wouldn't say played good, but like you pretty much gifted South Carolina 14 points and took yourself out of the game.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to criticize the defense for really only giving up a few big drives. So I just think there's kind of been positives in each game, whereas there were multiple games last year where we walked away with zero positivity. But I would say, at least for this season, this is probably the highest I've been on this team. I mean, Auburn's obviously not a very good football team. That offense is dreadful. This whole game felt dreadful. It felt like
Yeah,
a
they got
chore to
two
watch
elite
it.
receivers. I don't understand how their offense is so bad. It doesn't
They're,
make any sense. I mean, that's why Hugh Freeze was let go on Sunday,
yeah,
but that's insane to me.
yeah. Another coach that Stoops ran out of town. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's been a handful of those, but
Them and
yeah,
OCs are the best things he gets out of town.
yeah, it was. But yeah, I agree with you about the fight of this team. I said this team kind of quitting was a fear I had. They obviously came out and everybody still played it extremely hard. Besides, the immaturity I think we saw from our 33-year-old backup quarterback today on Twitter.
I was hoping we were going to sweep that under the rug. I was really hoping I didn't have to hear about that.
But I mean, that was kind of the first sign of some stuff you saw a year ago. But at the end of the day, he's your backup quarterback. He's not really a leader of your team. It's obviously Cutter's team, so it just kind of is what it is. But yeah, I think just the attitude and everything of this team is a lot different from a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you, and I think it really does show something because I think this is probably the most toxic this fan base had been
Oh yeah,
for quite some time, and for these guys to stick and rally around Coach Stoops, I think really does speak to the volume of like character he has in that locker room and the guys believing and trusting in him. That being said, we're still 3-5, and you still have a lot of way to go before you get to those next games, guys. I'm gonna need one of you to talk.
give him. I was waiting to jump in, but no, I agree with you. There's some positivity here. There's momentum for you to build on. You're playing you're at home this week against a Florida team that's not very good either. Like there is a
They got a lot of injuries too.
yeah, and like they're on a interim head coach. They haven't looked good really at any point this season. Probably should have lost to Mississippi State, who's one of the other worst teams in the SEC this year. So even though you're a 3.5 point underdog, this is a very winnable game. And then at that point, hey, 2 in a row, that's a win streak. You got some
Then you'd have
some
Tennessee
momentum.
Tech the very next
Yep.
week. You're thinking about 3 in a row there, and guess
Yep.
what?
Next
3 in a
thing you
row,
know,
and you face two
you're
rivals.
5-5, and you try to figure it out from there.
Yeah, and I mean that Vandy game is starting to look a little bit more winnable the more they play. Obviously, in the middle of the season, they looked like a potential playoff team. I'm not sure they're going to be along those lines, but I mean, you want to talk about the arrow pointing up. I mean, I think the arrow is pointing up on just about everybody on this entire team. The only person I came out of this game not loving their performance was probably Cutter Boley, and he just hasn't really figured it out on the road yet. You look at the most struggles he's had; they've all been on the road. But this Florida game is obviously going to be at Kroger Field, and it's against a good defense. This Florida team does have a good defense, and they always have great athletes. I mean, you're never going to face a Florida Gators team that isn't full of highly touted recruits and great athletes on the defensive side of the ball. But this Florida offense is terrible. I mean, they got a great back in Jaden Ball. Obviously, we saw that a lot last year when he scored 4 touchdowns against us. But DJ Lagway has not taken that step that I think that they were planning on him to. He's obviously been kind of hurt all season. You mentioned an interim coach. Their top 2 receivers are out. I think this is a game that Kentucky wins. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised by that 3.5 point spread that Florida's favored.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what we can do for this game here. I mean, you mentioned it. Our Cutter's been, trying to figure out on the road, but at home he's been killing it. So, bring Florida into our house and see what we can do against him. If we can get that passing game going, Seth McGowan can get the ball rolling. Our defense can hopefully hold up against the run, do what they did against Auburn. That'd be great. I think we have a really good chance for doing it this week against Florida, and we owe them from last year. They kind of embarrassed us last year. I think that was a nail in the coffin for our season last year, among other things. But we talked highly about winning that game last year and putting that coach out of a job. So, this is the year I think that we can come over top with this, and I think the emotions are running high, and if everything's running true that Stoops has been saying, and it's kind of a hard statement to say is that we're trusting in Stoops right now, but if everything's been running tight behind the scenes and these players are actually committed to winning this football game, I think that there's a really good chance for doing that. I think that the offense has been producing a whole lot more, and if that defense can get back to what we know Mark Stoops' defense to be, a Brad White defense to be, this is a really winnable game as well. And that's kind of it's light and day different from what we were talking about 2 weeks ago when we were like, man, this team just doesn't have a shot to win another game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think I just think you see, for all the complaints of Mark Stoops is like he can still get these guys as motivated as any coach out there, right? Like he still has that ability to have these guys playing hard. I know towards the end of last year, it obviously wasn't ideal and there was, a lot of stuff, but honestly, it just felt like that was more of just personnel from a team a year ago versus anything else. I mean, if there was ever a time, it would be the coach that's on his staring at back-to-back, 3-4 win seasons or whatever the case may be. You just get your doors blown off by Tennessee. Like it was the perfect just kind of quit spot. And at the end of the day, he still had them out there motivated, ready to go and playing hard. So for all the complaints of Stoops and, the time management and other issues that we've had, he still knows how to kind of get the boys juiced for, Saturday night at Auburn.
Yeah, he really does. And I mean, he's just, I think you kind of mentioned there, just a great leader of men. And really the only time was last year that they kind of slipped off the ropes of that. And you see how much these kids enjoyed playing and winning this game for him. I mean, this was almost, Jake, I know you remember Stoops being, lifted into the ceiling after that Citrus Bowl win. This almost kind of rivaled that, the excitement that was in the locker room after this game. And obviously they knew about the SEC drought. They knew that, we haven't beaten an SEC team in over a calendar year. they hear all these things. I mean, these guys are online as much, if not more, than we are, and they hear all these things from us. Sometimes they hear it from us, and they're like, "God, these idiots!
Not
These
me. I've never
they're
spoken a
like
bad word
these
about.
three idiots on the Cats Talk podcast." I don't know where they get off on telling these
Yeah.
guys what to do, but I do kind of want to take it back to this Auburn game specifically because I want to call out the best defensive player in this game was our wide receiver in Cam Miller. Talk about cutter throws. I mean, what was one of the worst interceptions I think I've seen. It did end up getting tipped, but back to the pocket presence, it's still killing me. I'm working with him. I'm giving him some grace because I know it's a redshirt freshman. This guy's got to have better pocket presence, but it leads to Cam Miller getting a nice strip fumble, and obviously Jacob's cousin, just kidding, not his cousin, but Henry Boyer falling on the ball, getting that fumble recovery, and what was probably the biggest play of the game, and kind of just summed up probably Auburn's season even more than it did Kentucky's.
Yeah, I mean, this game I think was, you kind of mentioned it, just the perfect encapsulation of the Auburn season and kind of the dumpster fire that it's been. But yeah, I mean, 10-3, not pretty. You score one touchdown, but I mean, how about the one touchdown right out of halftime? You know, you find something that kind of works for that first drive, and then I don't know if you guys felt it. I honestly thought for sure we were going to lose. You know, even down to the last drive. I mean, even when Auburn was staring at that final fourth down, I just still never really felt all that good about winning the game. But the defense was obviously stellar. We complained about this secondary quite a bit. I mean, who knows? Maybe we can trot Cam Miller out there and put him in the secondary. I don't know, but
Yeah, I mean,
just
the way he hawked that ball down in the open field tackle. I mean, we have
yeah,
not been able to open field tackle so far this season. But that was actually, I mean, you kind of led me right into that. What about that? I mean, the open field tackles that were made in this game, and you've seen the difference in games where we're actually able to make those open field tackles versus the games that we haven't been able to. I mean, Texas, we made open field tackles and we forced them to actually move the ball. Georgia,
yeah,
we did not. Georgia, we allowed so many yards after contact, so many yards after the catch. You see the difference in this defense. And I think, Tyler and I were there. We were talking to Brad White in the postgame after that Georgia game. I think that's when he realized like how big of a problem this team is tackling and, getting guys on the ground. I think since then you've seen a lot more from this defense and being able to get the ball carrier on the ground. But Jake, I don't know if you remember this Florida game last year. DJ Lagley, completed like 7 of 18 and went for
yeah,
like 260. So they
yeah.
can still
Big
go with deep
plays.
balls on you. They can still get deep plays, but I don't expect this Florida team to be a problem. I really don't. Not a problem as in like they can't win this game. There's really nothing that should be stressing you outside of Jaden Ball in the backfield.
Yeah. See, like my only concern for this game is, maybe it is because of a little PTSD from a year ago, but also how bad we saw this team look against Tennessee when teams essentially just throw the ball down the field. As bad as Lagway has been this year at times, is like he can still hit a deep ball. So there is a world where there's just two or three plays where they connect for 65-yard bombs, and you're sitting there, and I mean that could be the difference for them. That's really my only concern is I don't expect this Florida team to be able to put together drives where they're moving the ball for 8 minutes down the field and wearing you out, but they obviously do have big play capabilities with that quarterback, and if they just connect on two of them, I think you could be trying to score enough points to keep up, and I could see some problems for this team. But I mean that's really my only concern.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the best part about that, and the reason why I might not be as concerned as you are, is the reason that Florida stayed in that game last week against Georgia and kept them to a one possession game was Trey Wilson. I mean, he had 120 yards and a touchdown. He's already been ruled out for this game. And then Dallas Wilson, who's kind of been their big play threat as a freshman receiver, he's already been ruled out for this game. And at what point is it just like a war of attrition? They just don't have guys that they trust to go downfield with. I think their offense right now is going to run through Jaden Ball. And the fact that I think the best part of our defense is our defensive front. I think we're going to be able to control this game defensively as long as, you're just not biting on double moves, stuff like that. We are potentially getting DJ Waller back, which, Jake, I know we talked about it before.
Yeah.
He was probable before. I think it was the game against Texas. He was probable and ended up getting scratched late. But maybe we get the secondary that we've been dreaming of all season, and everything just starts to click. And you mentioned you win this game today, and guess what? You're on a winning streak, and you know how much different everything feels when you're winning. I mean, everything
Absolutely.
feels different. The coffee tastes better in the morning. Those early lifts in the morning, you can get up a little easier. Everything's just a little easier when you're on a nice little winning streak.
Those podcast hosts sound a little bit better, a little more positive. I'm not going to point
No,
any
they never
fingers,
do.
but
We never.
Yeah, I'm excited. But I'm kind of with Boyers on this too. I'm a little bit nervous about and you mentioned it too, Cam. Just a little bit nervous about our back end. I mean, we're only a couple weeks removed from what we watched with Tennessee and how they dominated. I know you mentioned all the pieces that are going to be gone, but if our it's one thing to make open tackles, and I'm I'm grateful that we're able to do that again. If you throw a deep corner route and they catch it, the difference between them scoring a touchdown and open tackle is tremendous. You can stop them right there, but stop letting them have these big plays, and that should hopefully give us a shot here against Florida as well. Because I think if we're just doing a run game versus run game, I do think that we win this game against Florida. But if it becomes an air attack, I don't know if we can hang with that. I mean, as much as I love to have trust in Cutter, I'm still sitting there like, okay, is this Cutter from last year, the beginning of the year, or is this Cutter as of the last couple of weeks? I don't want to bank our game day on that. I'd like to, bank it on our run game beating their run game, and not have to worry about the big plays on the back end.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I'm actually expecting a pretty big game from Cutter in this game. I think these receivers are playing at a pretty good level, not an elite level, obviously. I don't think we have anybody that is quite to that level, but this is the Kendrick Law that we were all so excited to get out of the transfer portal. I mean, this guy has been electric in these past couple of weeks, and you've seen why this coaching staff made it a point to go out and get him out of the portal. And I'll tell you this now, Big Blue Nation might not agree. He's a better all-around player than Berrien Brown. He really is. I mean, I love Berrien, and he's one of my favorite Kentucky players of the last decade. Kendrick's just got so much more to his game. And the fact that we're actually getting him balls in the open space and think about it. For Berrien, a jet sweep wasn't doing anything. It was a deep ball, and that was about it. I love what we're getting from Kendrick Law, and I love what we're getting from these freshmen. I mean, DJ Miller stepped up. Didn't see a lot of J.J. Hester in this one after having 2 touchdown catches the week before. But then you see a guy like Fred Ferrier, who we've talked about before, step up in this game. I think the depth is really starting to show, and I think we're actually starting to use those guys. I think earlier in the season, we got stuck on, hey, these are our 4 guys that we rotate. Let's just get them in and out. And I think right now we're rotating through 6 to 7 guys. And I think that's really what the strength is. And I think you're seeing these receivers get open earlier and more often.
Yeah.
Cam, I just want to really quick, boys, I'll jump in. Cam, I just want to back your point up with Kendrick Law here. This year alone, he's averaging about 11.7 yards per catch here, which if you think about it, the first couple games he was really kind of slow, and then he didn't really have the biggest game this past week. But, I mean, to see those numbers compared to what we saw with Berrien Brown are pretty impressive. He had a 71-yard long. He has 30 catches, 350 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns. So, and he's a dual threat. He's been using on the run game, too.
And imagine if he gets 3 more yards in that Texas game.
Yeah.
And we're talking 4-4 with a win at Texas. You're talking about a 3-game win streak.
Yeah, and with Kendrick Law, this is back to kind of my point earlier in the year when we were talking about this. Like, it's just like good OCs find a way to get their playmakers the ball in space, and now you're doing that. I don't think, quote unquote, like Kendrick Law has hit another level or is playing better. I just think we're finally finding ways to get him the ball in space where you can see just how explosive he is. I mean, how many big plays did he have against Tennessee? I mean, even in this one, just like plays here and there where you kind of turn a little 3-yard screen into a Tennessee game 70-yard touchdown, and those are plays that obviously can completely flip a game. I know it didn't obviously work out against Tennessee, but like the point stands of just finding these guys in space, your playmaker. I think we did a pretty bad job with that with Berrien even I would like to see what it would look like if we ran some of these kind of plays for Barryon, because Barryon, it was either you go deep or we'll give you the ball on the end around, and that was pretty much all we saw him utilized for, and that was kind of my big complaint last year, and then you saw it through the first 2 or 3 weeks of this season with Kendrick Law, but now Bush is really starting to figure out just how to make an easy throw for Cutter for a guy that has great speed, and you just let everything else kind of fall into place.
So what I heard you say was let Bush cook is what I got.
I mean,
No,
at some point he has to, and I will say, even in this one, I thought the offensive play calling was better. I know that kind of sounds crazy for a game where you
yeah.
score 10 points, but I really do think he's done a much better job, especially over the last 4 or 5 weeks. I mean, we moved the ball very consistently against Texas, the best defense, in the SEC. And then again, we talked about it. We don't know who was making the decision there on, 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 or whatever to run the football in overtime with 1 yard to go. But that could have easily just been a Mark Stoops, run the football kind of play. And, I will say I don't know how I feel about Bush going forward after this year, but I will say these last 3 to 4 weeks, I've thought the play calling has been significantly better. And, if you're going to be as critical as I have been over the last year and a half when people are, outperforming that, I think they deserve credit. And, Bush, I do think deserves credit for these last 4 weeks.
Yeah, to that point there, I think all three coaches are. I mean, we've talked about it countless times already. They're all coaching for their jobs at this point. I think Mark Stoops is letting Bush cook a little bit more than what he would typically allow. I think Bush is taking that
I'm starting
and
the
being
hashtags
creative.
now. Let Bush cook. I'm starting on that.
Let Bush cook.
I don't know if I'm tweeting it out, but
Jake,
whatever.
anytime I send you something to put on Twitter, I need the hashtag let Bush cook. I might just put that as that might be my IG bio by the end of the night.
I mean, I'll say this. Boyers and I were really critical early on in the year. Cam, you're being the nice guy of the group, and I think you were just trying to tame us down a little bit. But he's come a long way since those first couple games, and really last year. We were really we were just sitting there after Toledo, and we were like, what are we doing? Like, these seem so basic. These guys have no rapport. Maybe that's a little bit of Zach Calzada too. I don't know, but they're definitely. I definitely feel like there's a different feel on the offense there. That they seem to be more cohesive there. The players are running. Kendrick Law, to your point, I mean, he's being used all over the place. Fred Farrier, Cameron Miller. I mean, it's exciting to see these guys actually get some touches and actually be schemed open and have some plays that get our playmakers the ball and not just put it on Seth McGowan's back, because doing that 100 times a game is not going to be. At some point, we've seen Seth McGowan go down. We're just going to need some other players to step up, because Dante Del is not going to be able to carry this team behind Seth. So, it's nice to see it.
I hope not. We all know my feelings on Dante. I don't need to resurface those. I saw the fact that he had 3 carries in this one, and I did a cartwheel outside. I mean, that was one of my most favorite things that I saw when I didn't have to see number 2 on the offensive side of the ball. Honestly, I think I might rather you turn it off and hand it to Sam Green, also rocking number 2 on the defensive side of the ball. But you mentioned Fred Farrier there. It's great to see him get involved. He made 2 big plays on that drive that led us to the touchdown score, because we hadn't really seen him get involved so far throughout the season. And I really think this offense is going to continue to go or not go based on the performance of Cutter. I think we've gotten to the point now with Bush that he feels comfortable with Cutter, and he's handed him the keys. He knows that we want to get the ball to Seth a lot, and he knows that Kendrick Law has got to get a lot of touches. Anything outside of that, it's just planned, schemed open, that Cutter's got to take the reins and figure out what's the best play for this offense if it's not going to those 2. And I think you saw that in this game. This was probably Cutter's worst game since that South Carolina game. I mean, and it showed. I mean, 2 interceptions. I think PFF charted him with 5 turnover-worthy plays. Honestly, did about as much as he could to try and lose this game for the Cats. And I don't think that's going to be the case against Florida. I think he's going to ride the wave of the team morale just taking a step forward. I think Cutter's going to have a big game against Florida, and I actually expect this offense to put up a good amount of points.
Yeah, I think if you put up, I don't know, probably high 20s, you win this game.
To 20 might get this game to win.
Yeah. Again, just my only concern is if Florida hits a couple big plays. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe like 24, 26, somewhere in that ballpark, will be enough to win this game, which we've seen it. Cutter is definitely capable, and this offense is capable of mustering that up. I mean, look at how far we've come. We've been talking about how they can't score 3 touchdowns, and again, I know they only scored 10 points last week.
I know it's
but
crazy that I keep looking back. I'm like, yeah, we still only scored 10, but I feel actually pretty good about this
but
offense.
after 30, 4 whatever against Tennessee, you do feel some positivity with this offense, and if this team can find a way to go out and score 3 offensive touchdowns, I think you win Saturday.
You're stealing my thunder for a little bit later in the pod because I'm right there with you on that one. Because I do kind of want to just give this defense their flowers. I mean, and Brad White specifically, they were playing a 17-year-old center out there for Auburn. And boy, did we take advantage of that with twist and stunts up the middle.
Yep.
7 sacks for this defensive front. I mean, these guys absolutely got after it. Sack and a half for Khalil Saunders, a sack and a half for Alex Afari, 1 for Sam Green, 1 for Taven Gadsden, 1 for Austin Ramsey, and Steven Souls and Lorenzo Callan both split a sack. 13 tackles for loss from this defense. This defense was incredible. I'm really hoping they can kind of flush that Tennessee game away and look back at the Texas and Auburn games and really start to ride this momentum because, like I just mentioned, you're not facing a good Florida offense, and I know you guys are kind of worried about the deep shots. If you have a healthy DJ Waller, I'm not truly all that worried about these deep shots. This hasn't been an explosive Florida offense. They really haven't been hitting deep shots. I know we're scared about what happened last year with DJ Lagway throwing 7 completions for like 260 yards, and that's still kind of scarred in our brain. But honestly, if I'm Brad White, you just got to worry about stopping Jaden Ball. And generally, I think you can do that with just a 6-man box. I think there's a good chance you can do that with how good this defensive front's been playing. I'm feeling really good about what the Cats can do against Florida. And I know as soon as I start to feel good about this team, we might lose by 30. So I'm kind of talking myself out of it the more I talk about it.
Yeah. It does feel like whenever we kind of start to believe in, any Kentucky football team,
every time.
It's right back. So, but yeah, I mean, the defense was incredible. Not just the 7 sacks, like 7 very timely sacks. It feels like, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look, but like how many of those came on 3rd down? It feels like a ton of them. It felt like every time, Auburn obviously never really got any momentum going offensively.
3 quarterback changes in one game. I mean, that should get you fired, just that.
And like, I get it. Like in part, it's, they're not a very good offense, but, the defense never let them have a slither of hope. Even if they had a 3rd and short, you came out and you stopped them or you got a sack. It was just very, very timely plays, I'd say. And just, obviously a really good showing to hold. I don't care what SEC team you hold any SEC team to 3 points. I mean, that's a win.
Yeah, and I don't know what Eric Singleton and Cam Coleman plan on doing this offseason, but if they don't mind taking a trip to Lexington, I mean, I will welcome them with arms. That would be incredible. These guys are elite. I mean, there's a chance Singleton just goes straight to the draft. I think
Georgia wants Georgia. I've seen Georgia Twitter putting of Cam Coleman for a year and a half now. So.
Yeah, well, thanks for ruining my parade. I'm just trying to speak good things into existence here, man. I'm just telling them if they want to make the trip down to Lexington.
If they want to score 10 instead of 3, come on down.
Yeah, call us. You want to score? You want to get more points on the board? Listen, that's us right here. That's us down here in Lexington. We put points on the board at Kroger Field specifically. But I'll tell you what, nobody's going to show them a better time in Lexington on a weekend than me.
I don't know. You pung it up. You pung it up. You retired.
The fact that I'm not
the cleats are on the mantle.
Fact that I'm not like the mini big dog, and they don't have me out there recruiting, taking these guys out for weekends, taking them to Keeneland, taking them out to the bars after, is a huge miss on UK's PR. First off, actually, it might be a good thing for UK's PR, but getting these recruits on campus, I'd have a top 10 class I'd have a top 10 class tomorrow. I mean, I might sign them to bigger deals than I was allowed to, but I'll have them the top tomorrow.
You got a place for them to stay in Lexington and everything.
I do. I got a place in the works. We got about 2 weeks until that place is in the works. So I got a place for him to stay, and we got it all going, all cooking.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, it is predictions time for this Kentucky-Florida game. Obviously, Stoops has kind of been known for beating these Florida Gators. It's obviously been a long time since we've had a home win. Cats play the Florida Gators. Tyler, you keep moving around in your chair, so I'm going to start with you because you keep moving. What do you got? Kentucky, Florida, under the lights in Kroger Field. Who's coming out on top?
I think I had this as a loss for my preseason prediction. I actually don't remember what I chose for this game preseason wise, but I'm gonna say I'm gonna give them the momentum here. I'm gonna say they pull out the win. I mean, look, the men's basketball team's out there winning. The women's basketball team's out there winning. We're talking about good things with them and how they've progressed from week 1 to week 2, or from the first game to the next game. I'm gonna say that the momentum travels here. I think in Lexington, Cotter throws the ball around a little bit. The defense holds up just enough. I think we squeak by here. Give me 24-17, Cats.
Cam, I'll let you go next.
It's pretty similar to what I was going to go with there, Tyler. I actually like your score of 24, but just because you had it, I can't do the same thing. So I'm actually going to have the Cats winning by 2 scores in this one, Jake. Tyler had them winning by a score. I know. You start feeling a little too good about yourself, and all of a sudden you start making these bold, crazy predictions. I'm going to say 27-17 Cats. I'm going to say they find a way to win this game. Actually, you know what? No. The 17, Tyler picked it, so it can't be right. I'm going to go 27-13 Cats. They win by 14, win by 2 touchdowns. We get 3 touchdowns on the board, 2 through the air, 1 to Seth McGowan. And guess what? Callaway goes 2 for 2, and we're really starting to feel good. And we're actually talking about potentially going bowling. Jake, I know you love bowling.
I do.
I know you'd love to go bowling with this Kentucky team. So go ahead and hit me with your score prediction here.
Yeah, I do feel really good about this game, probably too good.
Which means we're losing, 100%.
No,
There's
no, hang on. Let me finish. If all 3 of us pick a win, there's zero world where this team goes out. And
always the Debbie Downer on the bunch. I already know
gets a win. I'm going to keep my preseason prediction perfect, and I think Florida wins in a close one. I think they make one more big play than we do at some point throughout the game. I think we're all kind of right there around the same score level. I'm going to say Florida wins 23-20. Cats cover, but just don't make one play enough to go get the win.
And this is probably why we're not credentialed. I mean, this is probably the reason. This negativity.
I'm going to actually say, here, you want to make it real negative? We're going to miss a 45-yarder that would have tied to put it in overtime.
All right, 45-yarder. I don't know what the odds you can get on that on FanDuel, that specifically. But, boy, if you can get it, sign it up. Clock it in now. But, guys, that's all we've got for the Cats Talk podcast on this episode. Jacob Boyers, your resident negativity on this podcast.
You do it for basketball. I got to do it for football.
Yep. We're the yin to the yang. But, guys, that's all we've got here for you. Follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, on X. Jake, you got to put it on there. Let Bush cook on the Twitter.
Let Bush cook. I'm down.
Put it on there. Let Bush cook. Guys, get our podcast on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. That's all we've got for you. Let's hope these Cats beat these dirty, stinking Gators on Saturday night. Go Big Blue.
Go Cats.
Go Big Blue.